Hare Krishna.
Krishna Maharaj, you're welcome.
Hare.
Please accept my humble obeisances. We can start.
All glories. Okay. All
Yes,
glories to
Maharaj.
Srila Prabhupada.
Glory to you, Maharaj.
Gyana Timridasya Gyana Gyanashalakaya Chakshuramlitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahim Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuktapada Kamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavam Sya Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunastam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamsya Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swaminiti Namine Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Sri Tatmane Sri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Namine Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvesesa Sunyavadi Pasacha De Satarini Vanchakalpatarvyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namini Gauratrize Namaha Nityanando Vatutendur Vasoda Pranavalabaha Janaviri Jivita Patir Krishna Prema Prabhu Padmavati Sutasramam Sachirananda Purvajaha Bhavam Mata Jagat Rakta Rakta Gora Kale Varaham Advaitam Harinadvaita Racharyam Bhakti Shamshanat Bhaktavataram Itam Samadvaita Acharya Shraye Pancha Tattvamakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Sarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakti Shaktikam Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Nama Pankajanavaya Nama Pankajamaline Nama Pankajanitraya Namaste Pankajagraye Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabando Jagat Pate Gopesha Gopita Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Jayatam Surato Pangomama Mandir Gatima Sarvaswa Padam Bhujo Radha Mandana Mohano Divya Vrindaranya Kalpadrumada Srimad Radhagara Simhastanostao Sri Sri Radha Srila Govinda Devo Prishyali Visivya Manosimarami Srimam Rasa Rasarambi Vamsivata Tatastita Karasan Venus Ranai Gopi Gopinata Sri Estunaha Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So everyone is welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavad Gita class. And today we are reading from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, the contents of the Gita summarized. And we are treating text 28. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Avyaktadini Bhutani Avyakta Madhyani Bharataha Avyakta Nirdanani Eva Tatraka Paridevanaha Avyaktadini Bhutani Vyakta Madhyani Bharataha Avyakta Nirdanani Eva Tatraka Paridavanaha Avyaktadini Bhutani Vyakta Madhyani Bharataha Avyakta Nidananani Va Tatraka Parida Devanaha. Word for word translation. Avyakta Adini, in the beginning, unmanifested. Bhutani, all that are created. Vyakta, manifested. Madhyani, in the middle. Bharata, or descendant of Bharata. Avyakta, non-manifested. Nidanani, when vanquished. Eva, it is all like that. Tatra, therefore. Kaha, what? Paridevana, lamentation. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Slaisi Bhakti Vedanta Swami, Jagar Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. All created beings are unmanifest in their beginning, manifest in their interim state, and unmanifest again when annihilated. So what need is there for lamentation? Purport. Accepting that there are two classes of philosophers, one believing in the existence of the soul and the other not believing in the existence of the soul. There is no cause for lamentation in either case. Non-believers in the existence of the soul are called atheists by followers of Vedic wisdom. Yet, even if, for argument's sake, we accept this atheistic theory, there is still no cause for lamentation. Apart from the separate existence of the soul, the material elements remain unmanifested before creation. For this subtle state of non-manifestation comes manifestation, just as from ether, air is generated. From air, fire is generated. From fire, water is generated. And from water, earth becomes manifested. From the earth, many varieties of manifestations take place. Take, for example, a big skyscraper manifested from the earth. When it is dismantled, the manifestation becomes again unmanifested and remains as atoms in the ultimate state. The law of conservation of energy remains, but in course of time, things are manifested and unmanifested. That is the difference. Then what cause is there for lamentation, either in the stage of manifestation or in unmanifestation? Somehow or other, even in the unmanifested stage, things are not lost. Both at the beginning and at the end, all elements remain unmanifested, and only in the middle are they manifested. And this does not make any real material difference. And if we accept the Vedic conclusion, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, that these material bodies are perishable in due course of time, and tavanta imedeha, but that the soul is eternal, nitya taha sharirana, then we must remember always that the body is like a dress. Therefore, why lament the changing of a dress? The material body has no factual existence in relation to the eternal soul. It is something like a dream. In a dream, we may think of flying in the sky or sitting on a chariot as a king. But when we wake up, we can see that we are neither in the sky nor seated on the chariot. The Vedic wisdom encourages self-realization on the basis of the non-existence of the material body. Therefore, in either case, whether one believes in the existence of the soul or one does not believe in the existence of the soul, there is no cause for lamentation for the loss of the body. Ukam karoti vachalam pangum lagaye te grim yar kripatamahan vande Shri Guru Jina Taranam Paramanam Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram Akanda Mandalakram Vyapta Yina Chara Charam Tatpadam Dashitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. All created beings are unmanifest in their beginning, manifest in their interim state, and unmanifest again when annihilated. So what need is there for lamentation? So before we speak, we seek the blessings of all the wonderful Vaishnavas on the platform so that we can say something meaningful for our own spiritual life and probably for the benefit of the audience. So here, Lord Krishna is speaking to Arjuna, who was full of lamentation. Arjuna was lamenting that, was lamenting for two things. One is that he was going to kill superiors like Dronacharya and Bhishmadev, who were his superiors. Dronacharya is the military teacher of Arjuna. And of course, Arjuna was a beloved disciple. And obviously, he also loved his guru. So it was just unbelievable for him to shoot arrows at Dronacharya. Similarly, when they were little boys and the father had passed away, Pandu had passed away, Bhishmadev, as a grandfather, took very good care of them. He treated them. And of course, we all know grandfathers are always very compassionate towards their grandchildren. So there is such a sweet relationship between grandparents and grandchildren. And obviously, that happened between Arjuna and Bhishmadev. But now he has to shoot arrows, not only shoot arrows, but actually kill them all. So for that reason, Arjuna was was reluctant. And also, Arjuna also saw that the Kauravas were his cousins. They were family members. And therefore, to also kill family members, kill his relatives, was also very painful for him. So he was lamenting for that action. So, and because he was lamenting so much about the annihilation of the bodies of Bhishmadev, Dronacharya, and the Kauravas, Lord Krishna had to speak this transcendental literature, the Bhagavad Gita, in order to enlighten him. It is mentioned how when the Brajavasis, when they met Lord Krishna at Kurukshetra, the Brajavasis were eager to hear from Krishna how he is feeling their separation all these years. Because when Krishna left Vrindavan at the age of 11, he never came back. And from he went to Mathura, from Mathura, he went to Dwaraka and established his kingdom there. So when they met him after a long period of time in Kurukshetra, they were expecting that Krishna will begin to talk about, he would emotionally talk about his past experience with the residents of Vrindavan. He would talk about his past times with the residents of Vrindavan, how he is missing all of them, and how he wanted to come back to Vrindavan. They were expecting that from Krishna. But instead, Krishna began to speak philosophy. So some of the residents of Vrindavan, they were saying, hey, Krishna, hey, hold it. We are feeling separation from you, and we are expecting you to speak about our relationship with you. That separation we are feeling from you, you should also be feeling the same thing. But instead, you are talking philosophy. And Srimati Radharani said, yes, allow him. Allow Krishna to speak philosophy. Because Krishna is philosophy personified. Because Krishna is the origin of all philosophy. In other words, he knows the science of existence. He knows the science of creation. He knows the science of love. He knows the science of eternality. So he is a philosopher, the greatest philosopher. So Srimati Radharani told the Brajavasis, allow him, let him speak the philosophy, because that is what he is made of. So in this way, the Brajavasis, they listened to the advice of Srimati Radharani, and Krishna spoke a lot of philosophy. He spoke to the sages, he spoke to the Brajavasis, he spoke to different categories of people. So when Arjuna is lamenting over the killing of his spiritual master, over the killing of his grandfather, over the killing of the Kauravas and their military, Krishna immediately started to speak philosophy. And that is what is contained in the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is a deep philosophical treatise. Srila Prabhupada says in one of his purports, I think it's the chapter 1, verse 1 purport, that Bhagavad Gita contains all the information that we're looking for. We can find all the information from other scriptures in the Bhagavad Gita. But Bhagavad Gita contains some other information that you cannot find elsewhere, which is true. Whatever information we are looking for from the Holy Quran, from the Holy Bible, from the Torah, from here, from there, we can find them in the Bhagavad Gita. But Bhagavad Gita contains so much information that cannot be found in the Quran, that cannot be found in the Torah, that cannot be found in the Bible. Because Bhagavad Gita is directly spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, who is the ocean of all philosophy, the embodiment of philosophy. So here, Krishna is speaking. He says, all created beings are unmanifest in their beginning, manifest in their interim state, and unmanifest again when annihilated. So what need is there for lamentation? So the living entity that finds himself in the material world, in the material atmosphere, has to lament. Why? Because of attachments. Srila Prabhupada writes that the material atmosphere is characterized by lamentation because the living entity has an intense desire to enjoy the material world. And when he's not able to, then obviously he laments. In fact, this lamentation, material lamentation, is the character of the conditioned soul. It is said that the living entities that are in the spiritual world, the Nitya Siddhas, Hari Parshadas, servants of Lord Hari, they are not aware, they are oblivious of material desires. They are oblivious of Maya's activities. They are oblivious of whatever is going on in this material world. They are not even aware that there's a material creation because they are so absorbed in relishing Krishna consciousness. They are so absorbed in relishing their service to the Supreme Lord that they don't think of anything else except that service. So those are the jivas manifested by Shankarshan in the spiritual world. The jivas manifested by Karanadakashai Vishnu or Mahavishnu, they are influenced by the material energy. And they are always in lamentation because of the absence of the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Harihi Nirguna Shakshat. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is far above the modes of nature. It's Nirguna. It's above the material world. It's above the material energy. So he is always situated in his transcendental activities. Krishna is Lila Maya Purushottam. Lila Maya, he is engaged in dynamic and sweet pastimes. He's a personality who is known for his dynamic and sweet ecstatic pastimes. So the three modes of material nature, they don't come close to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And because these Hari Parshadas, these living entities, Nitya Siddhas in the spiritual world, are also absorbed in the service of the Lord, they have no idea how Maya is operating in this part of the creation. So, but the living entities that are in this world, they are prone to material attachment. They are prone to material desires, and therefore they are prone to lamentation, because when the desires are not fulfilled, it gives rise to lamentation. So, but here Krishna wants us to understand that as far as the material creation is concerned, there is an unmanifested stage, there is a manifested stage, and again, an unmanifested stage. This is the history of the material energy. This is the nature of the material energy. This is the character of the material energy. Material energy is in a subtle form, in its original state. And then with time, it becomes manifest. But again, with time, it becomes unmanifest. And that is the principle, that is a rule for everything material. Our bodies, our families, whatever is material undergoes these stages of unmanifestation, manifestation, and again, unmanifestation. So we need to understand that this is the nature of this material energy, and there is nothing we can do about it. It is unmanifested at some stage, it is manifested at some stage, and again becomes unmanifested at a certain stage. Before we were born, these bodies were not there. But by material energies arrangement, karma trainer, we are manifested, the body is manifested in the womb of our mother, where the soul is injected. And with time, it becomes mature enough to exist on its own. And so it is forced out of the mother's womb. And from that moment, we have our independent life until again, and it is time for the unmanifestation of this body. And so death strikes. And this body is again reduced to its elementals. St. Prabhupada gives an example here of the skyscraper. He says the skyscraper is manifested from earth. And when it is dismantled, the skyscraper still exists, but it's only in atomic form, because all the ingredients that were put together to make the skyscraper, when it is broken, it's actually not destroyed. It is reduced to its atomic form. So similarly, these, our bodies that we are so attached to, also goes through these on manifestation, manifestation, and again on manifestation. That is the law. That is the order. And there is no means by which we can negate this. So therefore, lamentation or no lamentation, there is nothing we can do about it. So therefore, Krishna is speaking this knowledge to help us understand that everything material goes through these stages. So a devotee has to understand this and become fixed at the lotus feet of Krishna. Because the spiritual will, Krishna, devotional service, they don't go through this on manifestation, manifestation, and on manifestation. That is the problem with the material energy. The spiritual energy is permanently present. It does not undergo these changes. That is the spiritual energy. And that is actually where we belong. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in his Jaiva Dham, talks about this lamentation. He says, a householder laments if he loses his wife, loses his children, loses his property. It is natural because he's attached to them. He identifies with these things with his body, with his existence. But a practitioner of devotional service should not maintain this lamentation for long. They should quickly give up their lamentation and engage in the cultivation of Krishna consciousness. He further went on to say that a renunciate should not lament if he does not possess a quilt, say a blanket, or something to cover himself, a kamandalu, or his water pot, or his arms he has bagged, his dikshu he has bagged, has been stolen, taken away by some rascals. He should not lament. A practicing Vaishnava should give up all edges to lamentation. Otherwise, there will be obstacles in his constant remembrance of Krishna. In the Padma Purana, it is also mentioned, Shoka Masa Dibir Bhavai Akantim Yashya Manasham Katam Tasya Mukundasya Spruti Sam Bhavana Bhavet. Within the heart of one who is full of anger or pride or lamentation on the state of his property, there is no possibility of Krishna being manifested in his heart. How can the mind be dominated? How can the mind be dominated by lamentation, by fear, by anger, by greed, by envy? Meditate on the transcendental form of Krishna. A devotee may become afflicted by lamentation and illusion because of the death of a family member, or because of some desire, unfulfilled desires. But he must not allow such feelings to paralyze or cripple his devotional service. It is natural to mourn the demise of a son, but one must quickly overcome such unhappiness by taking shelter of the holy names of Krishna and praying to him for solace and strength. In this way, a devotee must train himself to always remember the lotus feet of the Lord in all conditions of life. To exemplify this exposition, this explanation, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes in his book, Shoka Shanatana, The Art of Dispelling Grief. It's a song written by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, which he composed between the years of 1888 and 1890. So he mentions the story of Srivas Pandit. We all know that when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in Navadvip, was in Mayapur, he would perform Harinam in the day with thousands of devotees. He would immerse all the devotees in the holy names of Krishna. He would intoxicate all the devotees with Krishna Prem. Even all living entities, animals, they were all drinking the nectar of the holy name. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was tasting the holy name. Krishna Bhavamritam, he was tasting the holy name. And he was also initiating the devotees into tasting the holy name. Diksham Sikshayat Premam, he was always inducing the devotees to drink the nectar of the holy name. That was his mission, to allow the living entity to experience the blissfulness of the spiritual world. So during the day, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would induce everyone to chant the holy names, to taste the holy names, to relish the holy names. And then at night, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu does not sleep. He will go to Srivas Angam, the house of Srivas Thakur, and he would engage in nocturnal Harinam from the beginning of the night to the end of the night. He would invoke the spiritual world. He would invoke Goloka Vrindavan in Srivas Thakur's house, and all the members, intimate members, intimate devotees, confidential devotees, they will relish this holy name in the association of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the house of Srivas Pandit. But one day, while this ecstatic kirtan was going on in Srivas Angam, one of Srivas Thakur's 5 sons died out of some mysterious disease. So while the kirtan was going on in the courtyard outside, the ladies in the house were wailing out of lamentation for the death of the child. They were wailing out of separation for the death of this child. And somehow or the other, Srivas Thakur heard the wailing of these ladies. So he immediately left the kirtan and went into the house. And he found out that his son was dead and the ladies were wailing. So he pacified them with sweet instructions. He pacified them with nice spiritual instructions, and they stopped crying. And then Srivas Pandit, he went back and joined the kirtan. And so the kirtan went on till daybreak. When the kirtan was finished, Mahaprabhu came out of his internal consciousness. He came back to external consciousness. When Mahaprabhu is chanting the holy name, he is in Vaikuntha, he is in Goloka, he is in Vrindavan. He is no more connected to the environment. So when he came out of his internal consciousness to the external world, then immediately he could feel that something was wrong in Srivas Thakur's house. So he asked Srivas Thakur, is there something amiss in this house? And Srivas Thakur reluctantly, because he did not want to disturb Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Actually, he did not disturb him during the kirtan. He didn't want to bring him out of his ecstasy. So he didn't reveal that to him. But when the Lord asked, he reluctantly said, yes, one of my sons died while the kirtan was going on. And Mahaprabhu said, but why didn't you tell me? And Srivas Thakur says, because I do not want to disturb your ecstasy. I do not want to interfere with your ecstasy. The ecstasy of Krishna consciousness is more important than hearing about some dead person. The ecstasy of Krishna consciousness is relishable than hearing about some dead child. So, of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, any living entity within the house of Srivas Pandit is very dear to him. Because Srivas Pandit is very dear to him, every living entity within that house is also very dear to him. So he should have told him. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ordered that they should bring the dead body of the child out from the house. So they brought the child out to the courtyard. And Mahaprabhu, out of his costless mercy, ordered the soul of the child to re-enter his body. And the soul obeyed the orders of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He re-entered his body and sat up. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked him, why are you leaving such a wonderful family like Srivas Thakur's family? You are so fortunate to take birth in such an exalted Vaishnav's family. But why are you leaving so untimely? And this boy spoke. He said, my dear Lord, I am simply following your orders. Just as yesterday, we had the wonderful narrations from His Grace Shalika Prabhu about the death of the yogini Gautami, that I'm simply following your orders. You have brought me here for this period of time, and that time you have given me to stay in this house is over. I have to go on to the next destination. So my dear Lord, I am simply following your orders. And Mahaprabhu asked some more questions, and the boy spoke such wonderful philosophy. He educated everybody with transcendental knowledge. And thereafter, the boy went silent again, and the soul departed. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, along with the members of his Harinam party, they celebrated the child's funeral rites. They took the body to the Ganges, bathed it, and cremated it, and then they performed all the rituals. And so Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he gave this example that how Srivas Thakur was able to overcome the grief of his child's death. So it is not that a devotee does not experience grieving moments. It's not that a devotee does not experience the loss of family members. It doesn't mean that a devotee, because these bodies, they are manifest and also unmanifest. They are unmanifest in the first stage, manifest in the interim, and again becomes unmanifest. We must understand this. That is bound to happen. That is the order. That is the law. So therefore, a devotee should not allow lamentation to take the better half of him. That is why Krishna is also speaking about this lamentation in the Bhagavad Gita. I think in the 18th chapter, verse 54, I guess. Verse 54. Brahma Bhuta Prasanadma na Sokshati na Kankshati Samasarveshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktim Lamate Param. See, Sokshati means laments, and Kankshati means desires. These two things, they go together. Kangshati, Shokchati and Kangshati. So long as there are desires, of course, material desires, when they are not fulfilled, we will lament. So if one wants to give up lamentation, he must also change his desires from material to spiritual. And once our desires are spiritual, then there is no question of lamentation. Of course, there is also spiritual lamentation. A devotee laments that he's not able to chant his rounds properly. A devotee laments he's not able to serve his Guru Maharaj properly. A devotee laments he's not able to serve the Vaishnavas properly. A devotee laments that he's not able to chant to serve the Lord properly. So a devotee laments. Or a devotee laments he misses the association of other devotees. So there is always lamentation, but that is spiritual lamentation. That is spiritual lamentation, like the Goswamis. When the Goswamis disappeared, Srivas Acharya, he was lamenting. And we see the 8 prayers glorifying the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. They are full of lamentations of Srinivas Acharya. So a devotee laments, but it is a spiritual lamentation. When we're lamenting for devotees association, when we're lamenting for Krishna's service, when we're lamenting for our inability to perform devotional service properly, that is spiritual lamentation. It actually helps us to make advancements. But when we are lamenting for the loss of bodies, like Arjuna is lamenting that he's going to kill his grandfather, he's going to kill his teacher, he's going to kill the Kauravas, that is material lamentation. And therefore, Krishna was forced. Let's say Krishna was compassionate. Krishna is Karuna Maya. He's the embodiment of compassion. He was compassionate towards Arjuna. And therefore, he spoke the Bhagavad Gita to dispel his lamentations. And when Arjuna heard the Bhagavad Gita, all his lamentations were gone. And he picked up his bow and arrow and was ready to fight. He said, my dear Krishna, just instruct me. So I have a meeting at 11 o'clock. I'm a member of a committee the GBC set up to investigate some issues and report back to the GBC. So today at 11 o'clock, we are reporting back to the GBC. And so I wouldn't want to keep the class long. So I think I have 10 more minutes. So if there are any comments or questions, they are welcome. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, moderator. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Raj, please accept my humble obeisances.
Jai. So I have to run to another.
Yes,
program. I don't want to delay the class. Any questions or comments?
Yes. Yes, it's Grace Ganga Prasad Prabhu sounds is up. Yes, please.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, obeisances at your lotus feet. All glories to Guru and Goranga, all glories to Prabhupada.
All glories to you.
It's a pleasant delight to hear from you again today, and very informative. Thank you very much. My question is a little bit finicky, but I have to ask it.
Yeah.
In the whole of Krishna Lila, there are many exhibitions of miracles.
Yeah.
Dead coming back to life, planting a mango seed, and it fructifies immediately, and people eat out of it. But then in our present day experience of Krishna consciousness, especially in the intense Christian environment, the Christians seem to be intimidating the devotees with too many expressions of miracles, as if it is only found in their domain. But the devotees also don't express the content of their teaching to be able to make them know that they haven't seen nothing yet. So I don't know what you will advise the devotees in relationship with this, so that we can have more, gates in preaching Krishna consciousness.
Thank you very much for this very important question. I spoke about this to one audience. I said Krishna consciousness is the supreme miracle, supreme mysticism, So it's not that we are bereft of miracles. It's not. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life from the beginning to end is full of miracles. It's full of miracles. Even his disappearance is miraculous. So it's not that our philosophy or our practice, there is no miracles. So when people talk about miracles, it is common with our philosophy. Krishna's activities is full of miracles. Even many of our acharyas, their activities are full of miracles. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, I had one pastime that one middle of the night, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta woke up one brahmachari from the Chaitanya Math in Mayapur, and then told the brahmachari to follow him. And then the brahmachari followed him, and they walked past the ISKCON, where the ISKCON property is, and they went down to the, what they call that, Halu Ghat or somewhere, the ghat where the boats crossed to Navadvip. And then while they were walking towards the Ganga, all of a sudden, there was a huge Harinam party coming from the opposite direction. And this brahmachari and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, they were meeting this Harinam party. And when they met the Harinam party, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Nityananda, Advaita Acharya, Garadhara Pandit, Srivas Thakur, and many other prominent associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they were in the Harinam party. And that there was a meeting between the Panchatattva and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. This brahmachari was shocked to see the Panchatattva. He was shocked. Similarly, I also heard that in Vrindavan, one day a devotee, the servant of Srila Prabhupada, heard Srila Prabhupada having a discussion in his room with some people. But to the knowledge of this servant, nobody had entered Prabhupada's room because he is sitting at the gate. But he is hearing conversation in the room. He looked through the keyhole, but he couldn't see anything. So he mentioned to other devotees what has happened. So some senior devotees, they mastered courage, and they asked Prabhupada, now your servant said around this time of the day, they heard some conversation going on in your room, but nobody had passed into the room. So we want to find out what was going on. And Prabhupada smiled and kept silent for some time. And then he said, the Panchatattva came and we're discussing, we're planning the preaching mission. So our movement is full of miracles, even till date, miracles are still going on. So we should not think that the Christian world, they have miracles, in our world, we don't have miracles. We have the supreme miracles. Actually, the greatest miracle, according to Srila Prabhupada, is to develop love of God. That's the greatest miracle for the conditioned soul. So when they in India, they were asking Prabhupada to show a miracle, he would simply point at the devotees and say, see, I have been able to convert these malicious into lovers of God. So that is my miracle. So the greatest miracle is for the living entity to actually give up material life and return to the spiritual world, to actually give up material loss and develop love of Godhead. That is the greatest miracle for the conditioned soul. But to convince that God exists, to convince the potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, sometimes some of these things are manifested in order to show that the Lord is in control, that the Lord's energies are unlimited, and actually one can connect with these energies. B.Gita Maharaj once told us that he could challenge these Christian miracles. He said he could do it. He could do miracles, but he says it's simply going to attract a certain class of people. We don't demonstrate miracles. We don't display miracles because it will attract a certain class of people who come to learn the miracles, but they don't come to learn love of Godhead. So because of that, our acharyas, they are not very eager to display miracles, because if they display miracles, it's going to attract very cheap people. So they are presenting love of God because they want people to really surrender. They want them to surrender voluntarily to Krishna. So if they can surrender to God and develop love of God, that is actually the greatest miracle. I don't know whether I've touched upon your question.
I'm very grateful, Maharaj. Yes, you did.
Okay,
Thank you.
Any other comment?
We have 2 hands. We have more 2 hands up. We have His Grace. We have Bhakta George Amiga, please. And after that, Narayani.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Bhakta George. What is your question today?
Thank you very much. Okay, Hare Krishna. My question has to based on lamentation. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, text number 30, I read, in the generation of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generation of men and demigods, along with sacrifices for Vishnu, and blessed them by saying, be thou happy by this yagna, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation. So my question is, assuming this thing continue, will there be still lamentation in this material world? That is my simple question. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Well, if we act according to Krishna's instruction, there won't be any lamentation. It is because the living entity is acting independently of Krishna's instruction. Then we are confronted with the laws of nature and we have to lament. So, but if we act according to Krishna's direction, there is no question of lamentation. Of course, no material lamentation. There could be spiritual lamentation, but there wouldn't be any material lamentation. And we simply act according to Krishna's direction.
So the last answer is Narayani. Okay, please, Narayani, you can ask your question, but you have to on your video.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Gurudev. My question is, as a devotee, if we realize that our loved ones want to leave this material world, is it right, and maybe we don't want them to leave at the moment, is it right for us to pray for Krishna? Because I know devotees, we don't pray for nothing apart from love and devotional service for the Lord. So is it right for us to pray for Krishna to prolong the departure?
Yes, why not? We should pray. Vaishnavas are rare in this material world. Vaishnavas are very, very rare in this material world. So if a Vaishnava is leaving us, we should ask Krishna not to allow him to leave. In the Bhagavatam, 6th canto, it says, Muktanam api siddhanam narayana parayana sudularba prashantatma koteshu api mahamuni. There are many millions of liberated souls who are perfect in knowledge, but amongst them, it's rare to find a devotee of the Lord. A devotee of the Lord is rare. So if a devotee of the Lord is rare, then we must pray to Krishna to extend his stay in the material world, because the presence of such a devotee will definitely influence others to become devotees. So if our family members are devotees, or they're supporting us in our devotional service, we should pray to Krishna to extend their life so they can continue with their devotional service, or they can continue to support us in our devotional service. Because by their support, by their devotional activities, some other living entities will get the chance to become devotees. So there is nothing wrong in praying to the Lord to extend the life of a devotee. Even Srila Prabhupada, when Srila Prabhupada had his first heart attack in New York, the devotees were devastated because they were just new. So they approached Prabhupada and said, Srila Prabhupada, you can't leave us. We are just too new. So what should we do? And Prabhupada said, pray to Krishna that please do not allow our spiritual master to leave us now. He is still needed. And so the devotees, they prayed. And Krishna extended Srila Prabhupada's life. And we have seen the case of Jayapadaka Swami. We have seen many other devotees. Of course, it is left to Krishna. You can pray to Krishna to extend the devotee's life. But if Krishna also needs the devotee's service, if Krishna also wants a devotee to do some other service elsewhere, Krishna can take him away. But our duty is to pray to Krishna, please extend this devotee's life so that he can still assist with the preaching activities in this world. So there's nothing wrong with it. Hare Krishna. So on that
Thank you very
note,
much, Maharaj.
I
think there's any more hands up.
I have to run somewhere.
Yes, so we request all the body to please unmute themselves. Let us appreciate Maharaj by chanting one powerful Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare Hare.
Hare Hare.
Prabhupada ki.
Patitanam Pavanembhyo.
Namaha. Jai Prabhupada ki.